Oh yeah, sometimes. Okay, let me make sure we're good. Yay, at least we have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's cool. There we go. Make sure that and make sure that I record. Always forget that too. One day I'll learn how to use the AI note taker, but it's not today. All right. Oh, I'm the chair. Hallelujah. Welcome everyone to our corporate board meeting. I want to welcome. We have two guests. We have Mr. Smith and his son Riker here to have a parent public comment later on in our meeting. For now, we'll call ourselves to quorum. Miss Hobage, would you do the roll call? Are you secretary still, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's been a long day.
All right. Dr. Windsor?
Present.
Mrs. Jones?
Present.
Mrs. Mendoza? Here. Mrs. Hobage here. Dr. Tegent? Absent. And Mrs. Martinez absent.
Okay, seeing that we do have quorum, we can begin, and we call the meeting to order at 5:03 on March 3rd, 2025. First item of business, in your packet, you have the previous meeting notes. Do you need me to post them up on the, do you need to share them with you, Ms. Jones?
I reviewed them before.
Okay, very good, because if I don't have to, I would rather not.
If I'll say it correctly, gotta make a motion to approve, accept.
Motion by Mrs. Mendoza. And a second by
I'll second.
Mrs. Jones. We can just do a voice call. All in favor of approving the previous minutes from October 21st, 2024, signify by yes.
Yes.
It appears to be unanimous of those present. Moving to, make sure I sign those. Item 3 on the agenda. Did you get an agenda back there? They're right on the table back there. Moving to the executive reports. Let me see if I can do this. Oh, we want to recognize Mr. Joel Bryce, also in attendance, our financial consultant. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
Okay. Are you seeing the corporate board meeting?
Yes.
PowerPoint? Do you see the PowerPoint, or do you see the notes side?
What do I see? Slide 1 of 17 is not in presentation mode yet.
Yours not in presentation mode?
Doesn't appear to be. No, it's like a thumbnail view.
Oh, I got the wrong screen then. is what usually takes most of our our time. And then try to figure out how I do the mouse. Oh, there's Ben. Okay, I'm going to change the way I do this thing. All right, so now I think I can be able to do it the right way. Okay, Zoom, share. Good morning, Dr. Tejan. Afternoon. All right, now can you see the actual presentation?
Yes, perfect.
Very good. Okay, I was trying something different. All right. All right, you have in your packet, and I gave to everyone our continuous improvement strategy system, the strategic theme for 2025 from the summer's leadership summit was to our strategic theme is for continuous improvement is to build authentic relationships, increase rigor, academic rigor through active engagement, providing holistic support for student success. We had 3 objectives to make that happen. Increase attendance district-wide, improve teacher retention, and increase the rigor with support for all students. Our mid-year review indicates that it's going well in most areas. The full report is in the handout. Also, I have copies for you if you would like to have them. Thought I had another copy. Don't have another copy. So 1, to increase, to measure if we are increasing our authentic relationships, we use surveys. And the school perception data in December compared to August. So in the educators survey, there are strong perceptions of respect and safety with the Paideia Elementary Academy reporting 90% reported that in August and December. It went up by 4%, reporting respect and safety. There were some concerns at the elementary campus about the equity of resource allocation, that there was maybe some thoughts that PLA might be getting more stuff than the elementary campus. They dropped from 86% down to 58% in that category. And we've got some strategies in place to, first of all, to discover why the perception's there. And then second of all, to make sure that we're addressing it, because that's a valid concern if it is one. Now, the elementary students take the survey from grades 3 through 5, and they reported an increased sense of being welcome at Paideia, from 64% to 75% feeling that way. But the engagement in lessons declined from 70% to 67%. So that reemphasizes we need to do more with deeper academic engagement than we had before. Now, at grades 6 through 12, the respect and safety perceptions remain stable at about 70%. But there was still less engagement. It declined. That's stable to me, 45% to 44%. And then the personalized learning remained low at 37%. It's good data because it tells us what we need to do and continue to work on. Now, the families, with their survey, it showed an increase that they feel like that they are respected and that we have a welcoming environment to them, from 54 to 62%. But they also had concerns about engagement and personalized support, went from 57 down to 43% on those. So it gives us good data of what we need to continue to work on. In the academic measure 2, academic data analysis, Miss Mendoza's here. You could address this a little bit better than I can, although she's a grandma most of the day now. I saw you. I saw you with your screen up today, or in your little office. It's awesome. Would you like to address any of this?
If I recall correctly, normally we see a drop in our winter benchmark, and we've always been, what's going on? Why does this happen? There was a slight decrease, but not like it has been in the past. So we were pleased to see there's definite growth, and although we've seen growth over the years, which is what we wanted to see, we wanted to start increasing the achievement levels, and we're seeing more of that now. So when I left, I felt like I was leaving on a high note. We were actually starting to show what the kids can actually do.
Yeah. So in math, strong performance, middle and high school. Even our RIT scores, which stands for Ready for Instruction Today, was actually higher than the national norms. It did indicate that their early grades need some more foundational areas like phonics and, in the number sense, right, Beth? I remember right.
I thought our younger grades was where our strength was. We usually see the drop in like 3rd or 4th grade. And I could be wrong.
Nope. Oh, you know what? I think it's grades 2 through 5 that they're talking about.
Yeah. It's K1, they did extremely well. As a matter of fact, if you remember on the quadrants, kindergarten first were in quadrant 2.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reading, the high school students exceed the national Lexile or reading levels. The primary grades show a little slower growth in comprehension, but still definitely high up there and growing well. Language usage, which is the writing and mechanics and grammar of writing, is just consistent improvement. And the early grades, grammar and mechanics, just need some intervention. Science, this is the first time we've taken the MAP science test, right, Mrs. Mendoza?
Yeah, our 4th, 5th, and then 7th and 8th took it. It's the first time we've ever given it because they are tested in 5th grade and 8th grade for the state for science. And we definitely can see where our areas of weakness are, but we also see that we have some scholars that are really exceeding and doing very well in science.
Right.
Yeah.
To celebrate the math, you know what happened because this is an executive report, our math is strong, and we had every grade level in Mathletes contest went to state.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, every grade level. Reading, language use, science, okay. Behavior incident analysis. So we looked at this. This is a measure that helps us to understand relationships and that support, generally speaking. In the elementary campus, there has been a good high focus on restorative practices with scholar conferences, with restorative circles, with restorative projects. And so, but the disruptive behavior still remains an issue in the classroom. In the middle, which is 6th grade on up, no, that's still 7th on up, there is still a high reliance on suspensions, and we've had a number of expulsions this year already, and so middle school defiance and disorderly conduct seems to be the most prevalent thing that popped up inside of that, which surprises me because I'm down there all the time. So I think we're talking about some kids saying no or whatever like that. District trends, there is a strong emphasis on relational discipline at the elementary campus, and the PLA still needs to do some work on finding alternatives to suspension and expulsion. Attendance still remains a problem at the elementary campus. This is also a measure of relationship and support. At the elementary campus, our goal is above 94%, so it's 91.27. Sixth grade has the highest attendance with at 93.4, and the first grade is the lowest, which I believe last year kindergarten was the lowest.
Their attendance was awful as kinders last
Yeah.
year.
And post-pandemic, it's a nationwide problem that we're everyone's dealing with. At PLA, it's still poor attendance. 11th grade had the highest, and 12th grade, which we need to figure that out. I don't know why, because I know we have some students who don't attend all day in the 12th grade,
But there's a very small number, and
and there's like 8 kids.
but when you have one that's chronically absent because of
Yeah,
reasons,
Small
that's going to drop
attendance.
your
yeah,
average.
yeah. So that might be why.
That's why we have 8.
Yeah. And you have one that's absent pretty much every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the recommendations, we're going to continue the relationship building specifically through Crew, and we've done a bunch more professional development with Crew, and maybe the next consideration is issuing the truancy citations to the parents, and any students 11 years old or above, they would also get a citation. So I don't want to do that, but it might be the next level of intervention. All right, 5 key recommendation. We need to enhance personalized learning even deeper than we do, address the engagement declines through student-centered instruction, expand the restorative practices to reduce punitive discipline up here at PLA, strengthen some attendance strategies, and target the early literacy and math support. All right, next on our list of the executive director report is to report out to the corporate board that our college and career concurrent and dual enrollment project has launched. We are developing a strong partnership with South Mountain Community College and the Maricopa Community College District. We're creating a multi-path flight plan for our senior academy owls to earn up to an associate's degree along with their high school diploma. Also, I was very passionate about making sure that the trades were represented. So over at South Mountain Community College, they also have all the construction trades. And there's other trades that the kids could go to, including culinary arts. We have some that said, hey, what about culinary arts? And so one of the community colleges has that. So they would transfer and we could arrange that. We also have, we've been very careful with our financial stewardship. So we have over $4 million in our investment account. And the plan is to use that money to support our students by paying for their tuition over time. I just want to report out too about our accreditation, our international accreditation process through Cognia. Our end in mind was to be accredited by May. We completed the process in January. We received such high praise from the reviewers. They don't even know us. And every interview, their time on campus, everything that from everywhere they said from all the schools they've seen, this is the one they'll remember, and what we do, what they remember.
Yes.
I'm quite certain they couldn't tell us that we'd get our accreditation, but I'm quite certain we will. I also want to report to the board that I applied for early charter renewal, and we were granted that. So we'll be going through our early charter here shortly. It's a 15-year charter. Ours was July 12th through July 2027. The next one will be a 20-year charter. It'll take me way beyond my retirement, hopefully.
And that renewal is a consent agenda item, is it not? For the
It
charter?
is.
Yeah.
I asked that question.
That's high praise. That's pretty awesome.
All right, Mr. Bryce, I will take it. No, I want to make sure we all are educated for 1 minute, okay, Joel?
Absolutely.
Joel, take us through these. These are 4 key dashboard measures, and then go into our financial report. Yeah?
Absolutely. So the first one we have up on the screen is the unrestricted days liquidity. So our days cash on hand, think of it this way, every year that we move forward, assuming we grow, our expenses grow along with those. So this measure measures your cash, your unrestricted liquidity relative to your expense budget. And it's a very, very important measure. It's looked at not just by the Arizona State Board for Charter Schools, but any investor that would purchase our debt in the future pays attention very closely to this measure. So the minimum standard set by the Arizona State Board for Charter Schools will be 45 days at the end of, I believe, the next fiscal year. They've increased it from 30 to 45 days over the course of 3 years. The minimum standard set by our bond covenants is also 45 days, measured slightly different, but not enough to really worry about. 45 days or a month and a half of cash. What that essentially means is if you did not receive any inflow of cash, you could operate for 45 days if you had 45 days cash and pay all of your expenses current and be okay. You would not want to try that, but technically you could. The minimum we've established for Paideia is 90 days or double the requirement set by the Arizona State Board for Charter Schools. The school currently enjoys a cash
We'll get to
position of
that.
250 days.
Okay, adjusted net income?
Adjusted net income, we want to have at least $1 according to the ASBCS. That will not work for many of our requirements, but positive earnings before depreciation and amortization. Our minimum standard for Paideia is 300,000. That satisfies the very, very minimum of our debt service coverage in most years. Lease adjusted debt service coverage ratio is a function of how profitable you are in comparison to your obligations, your debt obligations in the form of municipal bonds, mortgage payments, or long-term facilities leases. ASBCS requires a 1.1 times coverage, which means your net income is equivalent to about 10% of your full debt service load. Our bonds require a 1.15 coverage, and the minimum standard set, we want to talk this one through, is a 1.3. If we do that every single year going forward, that's a great thing. It will continue to put cash on the balance sheet. Nothing wrong with that. So those make you sustainable long-term. And then average daily membership, obviously, this is a given. The ASBCS wants you to maintain and increase your ADM. They don't want it to decline more than 5% over a course of 3 years. And in our case, it's inching up again slowly, which means we're in good stead with them. And that's really a good benchmark for the future. Once you reach sustainable enrollment, you don't want to decline from there. Growth may be good. Sustainability is fine at that point, but losing enrollment, especially 5% in a year, should be a cause for concern and something that we'll pay attention to with each board report to make sure that we're not in that situation.
All right, I just threw up the dashboard. Then here's where we are right now. That's that big red right there. We're still, that's still okay, but it's not where I want us to be. So I looked on yours, Joel, and this is the last page. We have 271 days of cash on hand at all times. I mean,
yep.
My God, I mean, so that's, and our net income, if I understood it right, is that 1.7, 1.8 million, 1.12. Here's where I'm concerned. I think this is part of what you're saying too, Joel, is that our ADM is not where we need it to be.
Yep. We're in a lull, that's for sure.
All right, Joel, let me get, do you want to run through that on your end?
Yeah, if I
share?
can, it may be easier than, I hate to ask you to be my assistant and flip pages.
Yeah, and you know how I feel about system people.
Yeah. that landed late, I'm sorry. That's funny. You're the most supportive person I might know. All right. Going for it.
Okay.
So each of you should have a copy
This,
of
by
this
the way,
report.
is this report right here.
The financial report for this board meeting includes all activity through January 31st. We did not have a chance to get February closed in time for this meeting, but we're in good shape. There's some things that we're going to be working on at our upcoming management meeting just to make sure that we've got a plan to finish the year at least that 1.12 coverage. I'll point those out here in a moment. But this is all 7 months of operation. As you recall, we finished last year with a 1.4 debt service coverage. This year we're tracking toward
Scooch that in a little bit, Joel. You make that half page. Make that half page or so. A little bit more.
Bigger?
Bigger. That's not even moving. There we go.
Okay. We can follow.
There you go. That's perfect. I can see that. Nice.
Perfect. So we're projecting toward a 1.12 debt service coverage right now, given our expense budget. There are some areas that I have some concern about whether they're going to push us over our budget threshold for the year, which would reduce coverage if that's the case. It's not of concern, it's not an alarm, but what I typically say, if we're going to run coverage in a year below the threshold required, not so much by our authorizer, but by our bonds, I'd like to let them know at the beginning of the year that it's our intention to do so, not have it be a surprise over the course of the year. That's usually something that will get them a little animated. But that said, we are highly liquid. We have plenty of runway to correct should we need to. We're not in any kind of financial distress at all. We're doing very well. All right. So with that, I need to, Zoom shows up right where I am looking every single time. Hold on. There we go. Maybe that works. All right. So statement of financial position comparison this January at the close to last January at the close. And you'll see based on where we're at, and we finished $341,000 growth, actually $257,000 growth in cash across all cash accounts that we hold. So good things there. Accounts receivable is down. We are receiving less federal funding this year because ESSER is no longer part of our life. So it stands to reason we would have lower receivables at the end of a month from federal sources. Nothing to be concerned about. This is where it gets tough, Brian. I got to go down one so I can see it all. On the liability side, last January, we had a bunch of prepaid items and or things that had been accrued incorrectly. This year, we're in good shape. That's about our average for a month, about $120,000 in AP at the end of the month. What that is, accounts payable are items that we received the invoices for, goods and services that happened in January, but we had yet to pay the bill for it. We paid the bill in February, essentially is what that means. So nothing to be concerned about there either. Pretty normal for Paideia.
Why don't you use your
Everything else
cursor to show us where you're talking? Maybe if you use your cursor to point at the numbers.
Can you see
There
my
we go.
cursor there?
I can, yeah.
Accounts payable right here. So this is about our norm, Brian and team. That's not a high number for Paideia, nothing to be concerned about. You will always have accounts payable. Pause 1 second. I have to plug my computer in or it's going to die, it says. So bear with me. All right. Proud of myself. I usually ignore that until it dies. So we're in good shape there. Everything else liability-wise, the bottom half of your balance sheet is very, very similar, if not identical, to the same time last year. So no deviation and nothing to be concerned about. Going on, it's going to skip to the bottom of the net assets right here. What is going on with this report? Equity. So $5.9 million in positive net assets compared to $5.6 million in positive assets a year ago, growth of $275,000. If you extrapolate that out, really, that's almost entirely cash movement that's positive. So great work for Paideia. I would never say a school is too liquid. We've got all the liquidity we require. Having more, we'll need to find more creative ways to utilize that. It's actually a good position to be in because you can deal with facilities improvements from your current resources and not have to borrow to deal with that. When we restructure our current indebtedness here in a few years, we'll have an opportunity to do some pretty neat things based on our current situation. I'm going to skip through this just a little bit. Statement of activities comparison. This is just interesting. $648,000 less in revenue for the same period this year. You can note that it's all federal and then some. That's funding no longer being available. We've increased our expenses by $420,000. This is a bit of an anomaly. Some things happened in the 6,800 expense category in January that I'll talk about in a second. So this is unnecessarily inflated and then reversed in February. So it's not that high. It's knock about $170,000 off of that, actually a little bit more than that. And so fairly similar to last year on expenses, and the state revenues and local revenues are increased, which is our primary source of revenue. Budget versus actual is really where the rubber meets the road. So I'm going to skip through to that. This one right here. This budget version is dated 2/18. We did a management meeting last month and revised our budget projection for the year based on a decrease in enrollment. It has declined further still since that time as of today. And some of our expense categories are running a little bit hot. And those are things that in some cases it's timing. In other cases, it's a legitimate overage from where we anticipated we would be. Of note, you'll see we're at $63,000 over in payroll. We are a little bit ahead of schedule there. I do not know exactly who or where that's being kind of driven by, but it is in the last 3 months, we're on track. So I think it was earlier in the year, not so much a thing now. I'd like to think we're going to get very close to where we thought we would be without any changes by the end of the fiscal year in this category. We have a savings and benefits. This will continue to build through the end of the year because I overprojected the health and the benefits employer's contribution for the year. So that helps even it out to pretty much net zero between these two. Purchase professional services, however, there are multiple categories here that are notably over where we have traditionally spent. We're incurring more legal expense this year. Special education services are significantly higher than I projected this year. And the biggest one, though, contract teachers, which is our
Yeah.
substitutes, is like 3 times higher than I thought it would be this year. So those things are things that are not going to change necessarily for this year. We'll need to address those with the budget revision on the expense side. Other purchase services, most of this is going to come into alignment by the end of the year. We're printing and binding is a lot higher. I think we're doing some internal work for SOP and that kind of thing, which is fine. Supplies, we spent a lot heavier than we normally do early. This is something we're going to want to monitor and see if we can kind of control it and reduce it between now and the end of the year. So we come in where we're supposed to. This overage of $179,000 in other expenses is related to fraud that occurred in late January. We took it as an expense, a question cost. It's been returned to us dollar for dollar. So no loss for the school, but it came back in February. So this is definitely ahead of trend as of January. If you look at February, we're back to we have a small savings in this category actually. So that's
Okay, so Joel, on those two, other purchased and supplies, I would like to, at our next one, let's dig into that and categorize those.
Yes.
So I know specifically
What to look
where
at.
it is.
Yep.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
was my exact plan for our upcoming EL meeting, to go through those line by line, take a look at the actual transactions. We have definitely changed our spending behavior on supplies, I can tell you that. And it's not a function of growth. It's just we're spending more in some categories. And that just might be a general communication with the management team and figure out what's causing some of that. It's not curriculum. That number's on budget. It's other areas.
Okay, that's a good thing to look at.
All right, so with that, here's the projection for the end of the year. This will need to be revised slightly on the expense side, primarily in the 6,300 expense category. But we're tracking toward a 1.12 prior to that revision. And by the time we're done with that revision, in all likelihood, about a 1.10. So without new revenues to offset those expenses, there's the chance that we come in right there at the bare minimum for what we're required to do with the ASBCS. So also of note, while I'm talking about that, with all of the rules change that your authorizer did this last year, with the increasing of cash and all those things, they were also wise enough and listened to counsel that they said, if you're highly liquid and you run below a 1.10, we're not going to hold that against you. You're burning off reserve. So because you are so liquid, that being below 1.10, should it happen, is not going to be viewed negatively by your authorizer, and you will all likelihood not be in financial intervention at that point. They grade you basically up one level from where you fell. So I think we're in fine shape there. I'm not concerned in any regard. And then 270 days is a projection to the end of the year. That'll go down slightly with the increase in expenses, but again, extremely good performance. Certainly our thinnest year for quite some time. And it's also indicative of, if we can't move the needle on enrollment and understand what's going on with retention for students from beginning of the year to this point in the year, we lose, which has not been our track record in years past. Those are things that could, down the road, indicate we've got something we need to contend with. It's not an urgent thing, but it is something we're monitoring very closely.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll see if there's any questions from the board.
Well, I'd also like you to, because you have vast experience across the state, um, just to, in the financial report, why this is such an important report for us.
Yeah, I
I
think,
mean, other districts are closing schools. Other districts there's a
yeah.
challenge, but what's the strength of this, and what does this say about your opinion on financial report about Paideia?
I think great question. I will talk about that for a second. So I would say of all the clients that I've begun working with, none of them have operated on a midterm plan. We do extensive work with what's really called troubled asset recovery, which is schools that are in default with their loan obligations. None of the schools we engage with to help them recover run a midterm or 5-year budget plan. Paideia has since 2016 operated on this model of constantly revising and updating its 5-year outlook to make sure that it understands the decision it makes today and their effects over the midterm. That keeps you from steering into the ditch, and you manage resources very closely. We meet every month. We talk about the implications of decisions that we make before we make them. And then we measure what we expect to find, Brian. That's one of those things. We inspect what we expect and make sure that we are on track to achieve our financial outcomes for the year, which you would think would be a normal practice for every school in the state, but it absolutely is not for reasons unknown. And that's what
Yeah.
sets Paideia apart from, I would say, 95% of the charter operations in the state. You are absolutely in the upper 5%, if not toward the very top of the list when it comes to the resources you dedicate to making sure your financial plan is intact and that you're executing your budget and adjusting your behavior, because you can't plan a year out perfectly. Every time something's going
No.
to change. You guys are making those decisions month by month and holding yourselves accountable to the plan. And that's why you are where you are. That's why your balance sheet looks so good.
Yeah.
You've been good stewards over many years.
So important, along with everything else. All right, so next, there we go. That's the executive report. Moving on to item 4, we will discuss the policy on concurrent enrollment. That should be in your packet. Anyone would like me to share that on the screen? If I have it. Immigration, current enrollment. You see it? Where'd it go? That must be it. No, that is not it. Oh, it's got that long number right there on E, and that's weird. That is weird.
I thought that was it.
Yeah, it was. Concurrent enrollment. Okay. This came about, did everyone have an opportunity to review the concurrent enrollment policy? Very good. The end in mind is our greatest, we've tried to figure out over the years, how do we keep the 8th graders to go to our high school? And we've had the goal over the years to have concurrent enrollment and dual enrollment. We weren't able to until we had our first senior class. Now we do. All the gates are open. South Mountain Community College enrollment advisors were here, and we have a partnership brewing. I just need to get this passed by the board, and then we can move all the way. Is there any questions or comments about the policy or concerns?
I'm super excited about it. I think it is an awesome opportunity for these kids. I wish this was offered back in my day.
It was so joyful on freshman night,
Yeah.
To have all these beautiful parents and kids there and just saying, they're looking at me like, wait, Paideia's going to pay for their associate's degree? I said, yes. It's like their college tuition? I said, yes. And it was just humbling to me that this would be such a significant thing for our community.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. And I think on freshman night, there were some kids that maybe were considering going to a traditional school and possibly rethinking that because of this, from
Well,
some of the questions they asked.
Mhm.
So
we have a goal of 60 ninth graders, and we nearly hit that goal that night. So
nice.
it was good. There were several kids who had not considered going to college, who they were like, wait, you'll pay for this? Yes. And then the other thing I pushed out was to make sure they understood that this will cover construction trades and other, not just the typical college, but there's a lot of different needs in the world and passions.
And maybe I just didn't see it in here, but when can they start on this? Can they start as ninth graders? Is there a time? Like, do they have to wait till they're at a certain?
I purposefully did not put that in here because I didn't want to tie the school down. Because you might even one day have an eighth grader. I can think of one seventh grader who is like crazy advanced. So I wouldn't want to tie us down on that kind. But there will be an eligibility criteria, application process in section 3. We wanted to make it kind of general of how to get through that and leave the nitty gritty to PLA admin. Dr. Teaton, anything from you?
I think this all looks good. I don't know what has it been vetted by South Mountain?
Yes. So I ran this past them. They're going to do an MOU from their part and get it over to us. And when I get that, I'll include our attorneys, and I'll send it off to you as well, just to make sure. Kind of like the ones we have one with ASU, NAU, and GCU, and others.
Yeah, I think it's fine. If there are, like you mentioned, nitty gritty, if there are details that everybody's going to need to address, we might say something about that. Like this is an overview, although it looks pretty comprehensive. I mean, are there significant elements that are not fully spelled out?
Right. So let's take the flight plan. Our competitors has a path. We have a flight plan because we're the owls. so that's why we chose that. We did not specify every class or a route for the students to take yet. I know that the intro one is called. There's an intro class they have to take first. Then we're going to have them take another one called storytelling. It helps to get them in the mode of the junior college life and all the different aspects of it. But beyond that, we're creating different flight plans for them. That's why I didn't want to tie them down on a policy.
So who do they initially talk to if they're interested in?
Yeah, the first part is they would go to our school counselor. We'll also have a South Mountain Community College enrollment advisor here periodically. Like right now, it'd probably be once a month. Eventually, it might be once a week. So they could also provide support and counseling those kids who are in college as well as high school. Yeah. Can I entertain a motion
So I move to adopt the board policy on concurrent/dual enrollment for the current year. I guess it's 2025 as presented.
And a second. Beth, second. Okay, let's do a roll call on this one. Ms. Holbeige.
All right. Dr. Windsor,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Dr. Tejan,
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mrs. Hobeige, yes. And Martinez absent.
It looks as it appears it's unanimous of those present. I'll make sure I sign that. Okay. School-wide calendar. Our responsibility as a board is to make sure that our days are correct. We adopt the first day, the last day, and the number of days in between. We've reviewed it many times. Even Mrs. Mendoza has reviewed it a couple of times to make sure I did make errors. So we have to have 180 days total. Our year will start on the 31st. We did discover that starting that Thursday before the first day of school was popular with a lot of our parents, and having those 2 days, and with our teachers, like just 2 days to get things settled, and then they get started on Monday.
Versus a whole week of settling in. Yeah. I
Exactly.
like it.
And the last day will be on the 21st of May, before the Memorial Day holiday, and that was a good, with our community, our teachers and everybody's like, oh yeah, let's do that. The other thing for the board to make sure is we're following all the legal requirements of our calendar, such as 9/11 Education Day, Constitution Day, Sandra Day O'Connor Civic Seminar Learning Day, and Mrs. Jones, is there another one?
Not sure if did you say the 9/11
I did.
Remembrance Day? Okay.
Dr. Windsor
Everything
Appreciation
is accounted
Day.
for.
And those are all in.
Yeah.
I also want to point out to you that we've embedded cultural awareness into our calendar with each month, with a different celebration of different ideas and things. I'd entertain a motion to adopt the Paideia Academies, Inc. 25-26 calendar. If there's no other discussion.
Never know what to say. I make the motion.
Mrs. Mendoza. All right, we'll say Beth moved. A second. Ms. Hobeige, did I hear you?
Yep, you hear me. I second it.
All right, I think we could do a voice vote on this one.
All right. So, all in favor of the
Yes.
calendar? Yes.
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 Okay. Next item. The next item is amendment to our bylaws. The history behind this is it takes an enormous amount of administrative work to onboard a board member. And then it takes another monumental administrative work to offboard a board member. And so in the past, we've had, no shame or blame, that's not what I mean, but we've had board members jump on without having really attended. And then we've had board members who haven't attended. And then then it takes a lot of requirements. So I reached out to our attorney at Osborne Maldon, and this is what he came up with. Share this. The idea is that in Article 2, wait, oh, right here. So the change is no individual shall be eligible to be a board member unless they've attended 3 consecutive meetings of the board in an observer capacity. What's your feedback on that?
I think it'll help to know if they're really going to be here
Yeah.
and participate. And it gives them a chance to really know what we're doing versus just a one-time thing, because they do differ. So
Yeah. Any other comments on that piece?
Yeah, I think it's a good policy first to make sure that
Part-
they're gonna, you know.
Where'd it go? Part 2 is that board members may resign, of course, but they will automatically deem to have resigned if they fail to attend 3 consecutive meetings or 4 of 6 most recent meetings of the board.
Brian, I'm sorry, how does that differ from the current provision?
There's no provision. It just says they can resign, or they can be asked to resign, I think,
versus automatic.
but versus automatically, yeah.
I mean, if they're not going to show up, then
Yeah, and life's busy, so I think it's just an automatic, hey, life's too busy for you right now.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
I don't have any issue with the framework. I think automatic resignation could be problematic for the board. Even if you have somebody who's not participating, you may have additional problems arise if an automatic resignation drops you below 5 or even lower than that.
It is staying,
So then it becomes an issue of how do you, there's unintended consequences, I guess. Do we really want it to be automatic, or do we want it to be eligible for dismissal and the board does have to take action to get him kicked out?
Well, I mean, it said if somebody drops and we go below the required number, then we need to fill it as soon as possible, but.
Yeah,
So
these
I see.
things could work they could work in conjunction against us, right? If we have somebody get automatically dropped and we fall below the 5 threshold, and then we need somebody else to attend 3 straight meetings before they can be added to the board, we might be fighting ourselves on our own requirements to take other major business as indicated in the article.
What if could changing the will to may? You'd have to add another word, like maybe. How would you word that? Exactly. I think I have this as it is a Word doc.
Could you just change it to Instead of will be automatically, may be deemed, and just take out the will be automatically. I mean, maybe that's their way of saying they want off, they just don't show up.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, you could introduce the, I mean, this is an automatic resignation, not, we don't have to accept resignation for it to be effective, right? So it's not
Oh.
actually deemed to have resigned. You've actually resigned if you don't show up. But we could instead have a deemed to resign concept where if they don't show up for 3 straight or 4 out of 6, then it's deemed to be a submission of resignation, but we still have to accept it for that person to be kicked off. It's just, I mean, this is legalese, but I don't want us to see, or I don't want us to get in a situation where we're short staffed because of automatic resignations.
Mm. Can we just take that out for now?
Or I can.
So I hadn't thought about that. If we go below 5, then we
Yeah.
don't have our number. We can still operate, but we just don't have our
It
number.
says that we just need to fill it as soon as
Yeah.
possible.
Hmm.
I mean, let me just give me a second.
He's our lawyer. Lawyer brain.
Sure. Scrutiny. Do I have the rights for that? Or do you want me to read it to you?
Sure. Yeah, read it away.
Okay, so proposed amendment would be for Article 6, Section 6. Board members may resign at any time by giving written notice to the board. A board member will be deemed to have submitted the board member's resignation upon such individual's failure to attend 3 consecutive meetings or 4 of the 6 most recent meetings. Semicolon, the board will then consider the individual's resignation at the next scheduled board meeting. Resignations take effect immediately or at the time specified in the notice. Except as provided above, the acceptance of a resignation by the board is not necessary to make it effective.
Okay. Read from the semicolon. The board will then
Consider the individual's resignation at the next scheduled board meeting.
Whoa. Sorry. Next scheduled board meeting,
Board meeting.
period.
Period.
And then take all that.
No resignations take effect immediately. Time specified in the notice. And then I put that last sentence, I said, except as provided above, the acceptance of resignation by the board is not necessary to make it effective.
Ish. What did I do? Oh. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I wrote. Now, I don't know if that's perfect, but
I feel more comfortable.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. If there's no more discussion on that, I entertain a motion to accept the amendment as amended.
I'll move to accept the amendment as amended.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, Beth second. Okay. Probably do a roll call on this one. I think it's important.
Dr. Windsor?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Tejent?
yes.
Mrs. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mrs. Hobage? Yes.
Passes unanimous of those present. Yay, we'll move on to the next. Would you like me to move it? Are you okay? Okay, I think in the whole picture of this. Okay. The next item is the vote on our policy on immigration enforcement on campus. This came about some time ago when I received a lot of parent worry and asked me, are you doing anything? Please do something, make a statement. So this was the statement that I made.
And I do just want to note that many schools and districts also adopted similar policies.
It's really nothing new outside of the law. It's just a statement of what the law is, just to make it very clear. Also, my other intent was to make sure that our staff understood the law and was confident in what they should do if they were approached.
So that's where I would want to look closely, Brian and team, is if there is an additional obligation on the school to train its staff to enforce this policy and on the staff to enforce the policy, because it looks like if they don't enforce it, they could be subject to termination. And if we don't teach them how to enforce it, then we're getting ourselves into a hornet's nest.
Did I take that off? I thought somebody reached back at me and said, that's not nice or something.
Which one?
Do you see that? I thought I had taken the termination thing off. I was feisty.
Yeah, I remember we discussed that, about removing that.
It's accountability. I see it on the top of page 4 on my copy.
Oh, may result in disciplinary action. Yeah, failure. It says failure to comply with the statement may result. I see what you're saying. Yes. So then the onus is on us to make sure that number 5 on page 2, all staff will receive annual training on the statement and the responsibilities related to immigration enforcement on campus. Training will include recognizing valid warrants, understanding rights, and responding appropriately to enforcement actions. Is that the point you're making, Dr. Tejan?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's 2 points. I mean, if everybody's on board to enforce the policy, then the second part's not as big of an issue, right? Yeah. We all agree that we're going to execute this thing and we will subject ourselves to discipline if we fail to do so, provided the school trains us on how to do that.
Got you. Yes. If no further discussion, I would entertain a motion to accept Paideia Academy's immigration enforcement statement of January 23rd, 2025 as policy, because it doesn't say policy, as policy for Paideia Academies, Inc.
Hey, I'm sorry. I just need to ask one other point of clarification here, because this appears to apply to the facilities. I don't see any comment on transportation.
Ew.
Yeah, there's nothing about the buses or anything like that.
Did not
Now, if
think
that's
of that.
intentional, that's fine.
It's not. My mind is that the bus technically is an extension of the campus, but would then I be required to, then I would need to make sure that our bus, our contractor is aware and trained as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we can even do that. I would think for us having a contractor that operates all of the buses,
Yeah.
we might only be able to say this policy doesn't apply to the buses. The bus company's policy applies.
Oh, sorry.
Plus, we have leverage to obligate the bus company to our policy, which I'm not sure.
Well, part of our contract with them is that the bus is an extension of the Paideia campus, and that goes both ways. That they are to they are to treat our students as if they were also at school, and our students are to treat the buses as if they were also, and their behavior is as if it was on campus.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
I'd not thought about the buses.
Yeah, I hate to play devil's advocate here, but I'm just trying to think about the fallout, because we have a private contract with a transportation company. We don't currently obligate them to this policy.
Let me. I think we should table this for a minute, and let me reach out to them. That's a significant question. Is that okay? We could also make a motion to do that, but
Let's think about that, because our families want us to do something about this. So
the statement is our statement, so that is on our website. I also read it in English and Spanish, so they do know it's out there. My intent is let's make this our official policy.
yeah, why don't we table it? So I'm sorry, I'm thinking this through. Don't mean to monopolize the conversation either, but
No, that's why we love having you with us.
So
You keep us safe. It's legally.
the statement has everything in it, but it's not an official policy. We would want to craft it into one that we could adopt as a board policy. So I think there's still a step to accomplish before we could adopt it anyway. So what if we table this until the next meeting? We consult the bus company and our contracts and our legal counsel, unless they've already weighed in.
I have not sent this to Osborne Maldon.
Yeah, they're going to have the latest and greatest too, Brian, because I mean, on the ground, practically the concern was raised as a result of the buses being stopped.
Right.
So we want to make sure we get that part of it right.
Okay. I'll do that. I'll send to them, reach out to the bus company as well. So I'd entertain a motion to table the policy on immigration enforcement on campus until a future meeting, which I do not know which one yet.
So moved.
Okay. Okay, Ben and Beth. And I think we do a voice vote on this one too.
So just, all who agree say yes.
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 Okay.
Mrs. Jones.
Oh, Miss Jones, could you say yes? Or what?
Sorry, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right,
no.
the next. Oh, that's true. That's true. I'm so sorry. The next policy is because the state needs us to have a board policy on our homeless policy, which I'm all for. I don't mean to make any sound like I'm not. This is our policy that we've had for a long time. I updated it a little bit with what new information from the state, and Mrs. Smith, our school social worker, has helped me to craft this as our new school policy on homeless. It redefines a little bit better about the definition of homeless children and youth. Gives us better guidance on their rights, procedures, transportation, and who is the LEA liaison. Local education liaison would be a school social worker. Also codifies the staff training we need to do and how disputes are resolved, and states that we will review and revise this on an annual basis. Excuse me. There's no discussion further on this. I would entertain a motion to adopt our homeless education policy and procedures.
This is Ben. I move to adopt as presented.
And a second? Beth? And we could probably do it with probably a roll call on a policy like this.
Dr. Windsor?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Tija?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mrs. Hovage, yes.
I'd like to, it appears that it passes by all those present. I would make a motion to switch our agenda item, number 9, on our financial policies and procedures manual, which might be lengthy, to our call to public. We have a family here who would like to address the board. Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
Aye.
Okay, do we have any?
And I come to represent not only himself, but also Jacqueline, which is another mother in the school, and Jackson as well, another student of the school. I come before you today as a member of the community a victim of gang initiations, a friend, and above all else, a father. I come tonight to bring some concerns to light in such a way that seeks your attention and energy to ensure the pride, safety, joy, and the innocence of our children. We brought our children to your school for a few reasons. We were looking for consistencies from grades K through 12. We loved the agricultural development piece through taking care of chickens and planting produce. We were excited to see the amount of faculty out and about before and after school started to ensure the safety and the well-being of our children during the chaotic traffic. We had other community members refer us to the school and talk about the level of education that the faculty had. We were so very excited about the music and arts programs that were being offered at the time and continuously. Over time, we realized that there were some issues, as no one thing is perfect. We began to discover changes in staff that were happening with a higher rate than we expected. We went through a lockdown that shocked the whole community and several concerned severely concerned our children within the school. We've had moments where our concerns were pushed aside and we felt as if the faculty gaslit ourselves and our children. Our homes and community thrive off the disciplines and practices of ownership. We thrive off of our children being held accountable and accounted for. Our sons have voiced some of their feelings. Our goals are to allow our kids to grow and develop in the most enjoyable and conducive environment possible. Our ask is that you address these concerns within the environment you provide so that our kids don't have to. Our boys have voiced that that there are faculty members that have pushed them to the side, faculty members that have looked annoyed or mad when the kids try to address the concerns with them, and the boys have talked about an incident where there may or may not have been a firearm on the campus, yet there was no communication to the parents to let us know the mitigation that took place and to make sure that there was not a threat to our kids. And I would like to side note here that Dr. Windsor and I met this morning and discussed this option and what was going on with it and some of those details. And I think that we kind of had a good path forward as far as communication goes. But I digress. So please hear me when I say this, that it is not a pointed attack as much as it is an awareness and a concern being brought to light. I stand before you today asking for your communication and collaboration, not disgust or disdain. We're all part of this community, and we're incredibly busy, tired, overwhelmed, and fighting some sort of stress in our life. This is an ask for your assistance. It's not for me or for you, but it's for our next generation of leaders, right? It's for our kids. And I will say that I put a section in here that I have crossed out, and I want to say thank you. This part's hard for me, but anyways, our kids, they were able to voice a concern. We brought up that concern, and I don't know if it was the sole reason, right? But a faculty member was relieved today, and that has such a huge impact on what we do as parents and what our kids, what they feel. And so I appreciate what that looks like, and I appreciate the fact that their voice is heard, and I appreciate that, you know, that was something that happened immediately and also was a correction through the communication that Dr. Windsor and I had this morning. So I just appreciate that piece, but I do ask that for our kids, right, that the communication piece is there and that we can go ahead and grow from that in such a way that we can build this community, because we do really enjoy the things that are happening here. Everything from the tuition pieces, right, for colleges, all the way through to the chicken coops, and all the way through what you're doing financially to make sure that your school can succeed and go through these motions. So I appreciate your time, and thank you again.
A clarification. So you got some communication today about something. Can you tell me the avenues by which you received that communication?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I will make it short and sweet and simple.
No, you're good. So,
but ultimately, one of our concerns was that there were transfers in employment with some of the faculty members, and it wasn't being communicated appropriately. Today, it came through Class Dojo. We were able to receive that information regardless of whether our children brought home papers or not. And to us, that was really important because we got that information. It was clear, concise, and it took out the drama and the rumors, right?
yeah.
We have kids, they talk. We love to hear them, but not always factual, right?
That was good feedback today, Papa.
Yeah, I appreciate
That one
that.
thing, yeah. All right, thank you so very, very much.
Thank
I appreciate
you. I
it.
appreciate your time.
You're welcome to stay and listen to the next boring part if you wish.
That's okay. I think we'll leave you be. But But I do appreciate all the information you guys did share. I think it's good for all of us to hear. And again, for our conversation earlier, I'm sorry that our parents are not more involved in this meeting. I think that maybe we can be part of that change also. And then that way we can be in attendance here and see what all of you are doing, because sometimes it goes missed, right? Sometimes that's why there's not an attendance that's here, is because people don't show up to partake. So
Yeah.
maybe we can make those changes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Smith. I appreciate it.
I appreciate all your time.
All right, the next item is the long one, the Financial Policies and Procedures Manual. It's a long one. As we all know, hi Riker.
Thank you.
We've been working on this doc. Did Joel leave? Okay. That's all good. We've been working on this document for so many years, and over the last 3 or 4 months, I've really put my head into this and reached out to a lot of different assistants to figure out how this would work. I'd like to just open up the table of contents and go from there to spark any questions or clarifications I can make. Is there anything in there that would need some clarification or discussion, or? Or do you want me just to go through the sections?
I mean, I'm fine with it.
You're intimately aware of it. You
Yes.
helped to put it together.
And one that I want to know, but I don't know about disobey.
So governance and oversight. A lot of this also comes from audits over the years, and so on the governance oversight, that's our the delegation of authority that we've worked on and passed back and forth. So now that's inside of our policy and procedures manual and not buried somewhere. That was a problem before. It wasn't readily available. Financial compliance, internal controls comes from audits that says, look, you need to know who does what, segregation of duties. You need to have an approval process and a clear path for record keeping. Strategic planning. I want to make sure, without naming, well, we all know that across our state, there's schools that are going out of business because of finance. And we are intimately aware of one who really had a problem. And so that really sparked me even deeper into making sure that we understood the financial obligations we have. So I wrote out a budgeting process, the forecasting of how we make our money, our revenue, how to make budget requests, also our fiscal strategy, fully understanding what the financial framework is in our dashboard, and our long-term strategies of what to do. And also, a big part of this is our emergency financial procedures. What do we do if we find ourselves in those 4 areas of emergency, days cash on hand, that's emergency reserve fund, cash flow, that's debt service coverage ratios, and annual net income. What do we do during those things? The next part was from our audit last year. We didn't get dinged on it, but I got a lecture on it about there's nowhere, Anthony said, there's nowhere in your documents anywhere that says how you do an audit. So I thought, all right. So I put together with several, not by myself, but our team put together our audit procedures and policies. We also were lectured a little bit because I didn't have a really student management system reporting. And that part of our handbook is still a little bit weak, but we'll continue to work on it. The financial management piece, really, how do we do journal entries? How we do this thing? It's still not where I want it, but it's at least a framework. We had to have we had these policies in different various places. So the auditor says, put them in one place. So that's our procurement policies, vendor management. I didn't really have a asset management clear place. So now it's right there. And fundraising, all that kind of stuff. So that's where we are on this whole deal. One of the things, Ben, I remember you pointed out in the last one was we didn't have clear job titles. Remember that we had a business manager, an office manager, and we didn't even have those people. So we've rectified that. Mrs. Jones and I have a meeting. By the way, that's Wednesday, Victoria. Today got way out of control for me, so I missed our attorney's meeting.
Okay.
And so that'll be Wednesday at 3 if you're able. We had our organization. Oh, no, that's not on the agenda. I shouldn't say that. Never mind. Anyway, we did review this in depth with Joel, and Joel not only thought it was good, he said he'd never seen anything quite like this, and thought it was. He said, "Hey, I would love to. I'd love to see if I could take this to other places." I said, "Well, hold off. This be ours." We put the hours in this thing.
So this all looks great. It looks like it's, I mean, is it fair to say that it's drawn from the bylaws and our other policies and then augmented with the things that we're missing?
I don't think it's drawn from the bylaws. It aligns with the bylaws.
Okay.
Because we had to have the delegation of authority and
Right.
a couple other things that we have to align. It also, that's a great question. I made sure this perfectly, as much as my poor little brain could, aligns with our fiduciary responsibility on the financial dashboard. You know, the framework, I mean, the operations framework and the academic framework. So, well, not the academics, not in here, but the operations and the financial dashboard. I made sure it aligns. So now we know what we need to do to make sure that we're always in compliance with the dashboard. Or the frameworks, I mean. I mean, even if you look at page number 10, so something I discovered on 9 is every board meeting, I always said the 3 items of our dashboard. Days cash on hand, net income, and debt service coverage ratio, right? Well, I didn't realize until I really studied more deeply, there's a 4th, average daily membership. And then I dug deeper and look at that. Look at that thing. There's F. It goes up to F. All those calculations. Joel helped me put together a Excel spreadsheet that we could calculate this so we know what it means. But I learned some things on this thing. Then I made sure I put in some actual procedures and timelines so that when our auditors take a look at this, they see, oh yeah, these guys are in control of their financial future. They know what they're doing. And then from here, what we'll do is every year, the executive team will review this for any minor adjustments, changes. Maybe our goals change with the 4 dashboard measures. I know that this will be morphed along the way because we're going to find different things we're not doing well, and then we'll just keep morphing this. Then every year we'll come back together, and then on that very front page, we'll just say, this was a corporate board review, and this was a major. So in that code, this one would be a BA, policy revisions that require board approval. So I do a BA. But if it's just minor procedure revisions, we wouldn't have to go to the board with it. We just keep with the executive leadership team. So unless there's more discussion and you want me to describe the travel policy and fundraising guidelines, I would entertain a motion to approve the policy revisions of the Financial Policies and Procedures Manual 2025.
This is Van, so moved.
I will second.
We probably need a voice on this. I mean, a roll call voice on this one, yeah.
Dr. Windsor,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Dr. Tejan,
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mrs. Hovage, yes.
All right. I would make the motion that we adjourn at 6:34.
Second.
I'll second that.
I beat you to it.
Somebody beat me? I didn't hear that.
Beth did. Voices.
Voice, all good, yes.
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 Yeah.
Appears to be unanimous of those in attendance.
All right. So,
All right, so what I'll do is we have some more work to do, but Mrs. Jones and I have some things we need to go to the attorney and solidify, along with which one was
The
it?
immigration.
The immigration one, and we'll let you know when. I don't think right now I can set the next board meeting, if that's okay. I don't want to do it right now. Okay.
Fair enough.
Thank you, everyone.
Next 3, you know that. I'm
All right, thanks everyone.
No, you're not.